Hi everyone, and welcome to the Serial Geek TV YouTube channel. My name is James Eatock, and today we're going to take a look at something rather bizarre that began to occur during She-Ra's second season. Filmation's stock system. To some, the worst thing to happen in animation. To others, like me, a cost-cutting measure that actually led to a visual familiarity that not many cartoons of the 80s had, due to those studios outsourcing to a number of different overseas animation houses. Whilst I believe that Filmation's stock system was good for the many shows they produced, on occasion it would have a negative effect, often when it came to action scenes featuring big battles, reusing the same shots, resulting in a strong sense of deja vu. One of the utterly fascinating things about Filmation during the 1980s is that visually, with each new production, you could see a dramatic improvement in the quality of the animation. Black Star, to He-Man, to She-Ra, to Brave Star, each production was improving. This was largely in part to Filmation adapting to the action-adventure environment they now found themselves in. Prior to the 1980s, Filmation had worked on a majority of comedy shows, and the few action shows they did work on were typically 13 episodes in length. In short, Filmation never really allowed the time for their animators to get used to working in a predominantly action-adventure style of animation. I should stress that their earlier productions such as Tarzan and Flash Gordon were very, very good. Regardless of Filmation's visuals, a trait that began to creep its way into the studio's production as of the second season of She-Ra was the reuse of sections of script, often when it came to action scenes and dialogue pertaining to those very same scenes. Filmation's visual repetitiveness was something many of us had grown accustomed to and learned to love, but script reuse, this was something else. Firstly, let's take a look at She-Ra's second season. Riding high on the success of He-Man's 2 seasons and She-Ra's first season, the second season of She-Ra had a lot to live up to. However, given the wealth of talent and 3 years worth of material behind it, this season turned out to be an incredibly disappointing one. Firstly, the Princess of Power toy line had not been the success Mattel had hoped for. Thus it was a surprise when Mattel commissioned Filmation to produce a second season, but there was a caveat. The second season would only be 28 episodes in length. Whilst that was a disappointment for those at Filmation that had grown to love working on He-Man and She-Ra, what it did mean is that they had 28 episodes in which to tell the stories they really wanted to before the show ended. You would think then that She-Ra's second season would contain on average a higher calibre of storytelling than a typical 65 episode season. However, this was sadly not the case. Whilst talent such as Bob Ford and Tom Tatarynowicz were still at the studio, the writers' room had changed dramatically, with Larry DiTillio and J. Michael Straczynski leaving the studio for Tokyo Movie Shinsha and Geek respectively, and Robert Lamb, who had rewritten many scripts across She-Ra's first season, moving back into the storyboard department, frustrated with script doctoring freelance scripts. Whilst the second season does reward us with some truly incredible episodes, with One to Count On, in which the Rebels' reliance on the Princess of Power is addressed, and Sweet Bee's Home, which may be one of the most comically suggestive and beautiful looking episodes of the entire series, we were subjected to episodes such as The Time Transformer and The Locket, both of which had fantastic premises but failed to deliver on a monumental scale. Even a He-Man crossover could not save an episode like Day of the Flowers. The second season of She-Ra, Princess of Power, does not feel like a last hurrah. It feels more like a selection of mid-season episodes in which the writers were struggling to tell stories. Etheria no longer felt like a planet under the rule of the evil Horde, with the rebels rather content with their day-to-day existence. Scripts were heavily edited at times to reference the fact that the Horde troopers were robots. Season 2 felt the need to remind the viewer every few seconds that She-Ra and He-Man were punching and destroying lifeless figures. And here's where we come back to the subject of this video. A notable aspect of the second season was an over-reliance not only on stock animation sequences, but also the dialogue that accompanied those very same scenes. For example, in the episode Return of the General, we see the evil Horde attack Bright Moon, prompting Queen Angela and her daughter Glimmer to fly into action. Obviously this scene is notable because it is one of the very few occasions where we see Glimmer fly, and one of the few times we see the mother and daughter fighting side by side. In the same season, and I'll remind you again it was 28 episodes in length, the episode Portrait of Doom features not only the same dialogue, but the same sequence though shot in a different way. This could be due to the fact that freelance writers would come in and on occasion not quite get the length of the script quite right, or simply pen a line of text that states a battle takes place with little to no scene direction, leading to those at Filmation to improvise. I would cite further examples, but the most offending one occurs in the episode Shades of Orko. Trying to escape Shadow Weaver's base of operations, Horror Hall, She-Ra, Bo, Glimmer, Man-at-Arms and Orko encounter a rather unique combination of villains: Mantenna, Leech, Grislaw, Ratlaw and Dial-a-Mug. Sounds like a great action scene is about to unfold, right? Rather than write a new scene, J. Larry Carroll, or someone above him which I'll address later, decided to pull the memorable action scene from the second season He-Man episode 3 on a Dare, in which He-Man, Battlecat, Teela and 3 children attempt to escape Snake Mountain whilst being confronted by Skeletor, Evil-Lyn, Beastman, Merman, Trapjaw and Triclops. Borrowing an action scene is one thing, but this was something else. Let's break it down. In 3 on a Dare, He-Man finds himself surrounded by 4 of his most fearsome foes. We are treated to zip pans between the characters on either side of He-Man. He-Man manages to simply run out of shot, and because they are in Snake Mountain's hangar bay, the most powerful man in the universe is able to retrieve a giant vat of oil. In Shades of Orko, She-Ra finds herself surrounded by 4 of her most fearsome foes. Rather than zip pans, a single pan moves across all 4 characters, growling, I think. She-Ra manages to simply run out of shot, and luckily for her, Shadow Weaver always keeps a giant vat of oil within Horror Hall. Yeah, I'm not sure why either. He-Man remarks,
"A little oil slick should slow you guys down."
To which Skeletor, in classic Skeletor dialogue, yells,
"Get him, you dullards, get him!"
The evil warriors are animated comically, slipping and sliding, prompting He-Man to reply,
"Just think what you could do if you had skates."
She-Ra remarks,
"A little oil slick should slow you guys down."
To which Mantenna, in classic Skeletor dialogue, yells,
"Get her, you dullards, get her!"
The evil horde slowly slide across the scene, with the animation not really played for laughs, prompting She-Ra to reply,
"Just think what you could do if you only had skates."
well, at least they added the word only. Having stopped the villains in their tracks, He-Man races over to Teela, who is being frozen by Evil-Lyn. He-Man uses the Sword of Power to deflect the freeze ray back at Evil-Lyn, who queries,
"What do you think you're doing?"
with He-Man responding,
"Putting you on ice."
Having stopped the villains in their tracks, She-Ra races over to Bo and Man-at-Arms, who are being frozen by Mantenna. She-Ra uses the Sword of Protection to deflect the freeze ray back to Mantenna, who queries,
"What do you think you're doing?"
with She-Ra responding,
"Putting you on ice."
He-Man is then confronted by Beastman, Merman and Trapjaw, charging at him, with the most powerful man in the universe asking,
"Still want to play?"
The villains rush He-Man, who catches them, throws them up in the air, with each of them landing atop one another's shoulders. A beautifully animated panning shot has He-Man carefully balancing all 3 henchmen on his shoulders, whilst mocking,
"Ever think of going into the circus?"
before throwing them to the ground.
"Put me down!"
She-Ra is then confronted by Grislaw, Ratlaw and Dial-a-Mug charging at her, with the most powerful woman in the universe asking,
"Still wanna play?"
The villains rush She-Ra, who catches them, throws them up in the air, with each of them landing atop one another's shoulders. A simple static panning shot has She-Ra carefully balancing all 3 henchmen on her shoulders whilst mocking,
"You ever think of going into the circus?"
before throwing them to the ground. Again, a minor change in dialogue, woohoo. But how about that? What may be even more bizarre is that the script makes no reference whatsoever to the fact that this is a scene reuse. If ever a scene in the He-Man series referenced the scene from a previous episode, it would often make mention of this fact. This makes me feel that the decision here came from higher up, possibly Arthur Nadel, who looked over all the scripts and enforced changes where he saw fit. The reason I bring Arthur's name into the mix is that the very last episode of She-Ra, Swifty's Baby, features Arthur Nadel's only writing credit on the entire run of He-Man and She-Ra, making me think that he was becoming more involved in the cost cutting towards the very end of the series. It was so strange that Filmation employed this kind of reuse throughout the second season, as episodes such as Romeo and Glimmer and Sweetby's Home, both directed by Tom Tataranaouis, featured some beautifully animated scenes. I should end up saying that She-Ra's second season, though convoluted, was a colourful addition to the series, culminating in Assault on the Hive, which featured the final on-screen confrontation between Filmation's He-Man and Skeletor and Swifty's baby, an episode that was a worthy end to the adventures of She-Ra. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.